Hey folks, Ken Lins here with Microsoft EMS Technology Specialist, and going to walk you through some of the latest, greatest stuff we've got going on in EMS. I'm going to start here with a brand new iPad. When a user obviously brings their brand new iPad and they want to get connected to email and all that kind of fun stuff, so we send them out to the App Store, tell them to go do a search for Intune, download the Intune company portal. Once they download and click on it, it's going to ask them for a credential. And if you're an Office 365 customer, they just use whatever credential they're using to log into Office 365. But this is basically going to be their email address and whatever their corporate password is, same password they're using to log into their computer every morning. And then what I wanted to show here is just, and I'll do this for Android here in a second as well, just to walk you through what the enrollment process looks like. I get this question all the time. The demo devices that I use when I'm actually talking to a customer are already enrolled usually, so we don't get to see this part. So I've got this here for posterity and for people to look at what the enrollment process looks like. But basically, what you see here is what you get. I didn't cut anything out, splice it up a little bit just to save a little bit of time. But you can see that once you enter that credential and you say you want to enroll the device, it's asking for an Office 365 password because we're going to manage that email profile. We're pushing as a part of the MDM policy, we're pushing a PIN to the device, for enforcing a PIN to the device because we're syncing email on it. So we're asking some information there. But basically, we're just pushing the management profile down at this point. And once all of that is done, then the user will be able to log into the Intune Company Portal app, and they'll be able to see applications that are made available for them. So we can either require an application to push it to the device essentially through the App Store, or we can make it available so they can see an app. You know, you'll see Link and Skype and Remote Desktop once we get into the portal here, once the device is enrolled. And then the other thing that they would do in there is use this tool that we have basically that allows them to see other devices that they have enrolled in Intune, and then primarily they would either use this, which you see here, they'd either use this to unenroll their device from Intune or to resync the device. So if they are missing an app and they call support and support tells them they stuck them into a different group or something and the app is now available, they can resync. And so now you see in this brand new iPad all the apps that Intune is required and is pushing down to the device for the user to use. So you can see all those apps getting installed on the device there. Now the next thing we want to do here is have the user set up second factor authentication using Azure MFA. So we're going to point them out to the myapps.microsoft.com site and have them log in with that same credential, and you'll see here that it's asking them to set up, it's the first time they've logged in, so they need to set up MFA. And so we're just going to ask them some questions. They just want to know here, step one is how do we contact you, and so we can do a mobile phone, or we can use this mobile app, and you'll see this mobile app here in a second. But what's great about this is that our mobile app for Android, iOS, Windows Phone uses the device's camera. So once you get into the mobile app and you say you want to, connect, then you just take a picture. Use the camera to take a picture of this QR code, and it automatically knows who you are, and then enrolls your device as the second factor authentication device. And so now we're just basically collecting some information. We're going to have the service contact the device to make sure that the device is working and that it can receive that push notification. And so in the next little screen here, you'll watch you switch back over to the iPad, and you'll see what the MFA app looks like on the iPad. So you'll get this, you'll click verify, and then once that's done, then we can jump back over into the myapps.microsoft.com portal, because the next thing we're going to do here is set up self-service password reset. So you want our users to be able to, with any internet-connected device, be able to reset their on-premise Active Directory password very easily, and so we can do that here. But the first thing is we need to grab some additional information from them, because we're going to use this as a second factor or third factor to be able to prove, for the user to prove who they are, so that we can reset that password for them. So in this case, we can grab some security questions, we can grab an alternate email, we can obviously get their telephone number so we can send them a text message or do a voice phone call so we can verify who they are. And then once that's done, the user can log back into this myapps.microsoft.com portal, and they can go to this little additional security area down here, and this is where they can self-service how they want to interact with multi-factor authentication. So do they want to use the app, or do they want to switch to something else, or they need to change their phone number, or any of that kind of stuff. They can do all of those kinds of things out here on the portal. Now the next thing here, as I mentioned, we're just going to walk through. This is a Galaxy Tab A Samsung device, so it's KNOX capable, gives us some additional capabilities in Intune, and just wanted to walk through a similar process. This will just be a minute or two here just for folks that wanted to see what the enrollment process looks like on an Android device. So same thing, go to the Google Play Store, download the Intune company portal, put in this domain credential, and away you go. You just walk through a couple different steps, and the device becomes enrolled. User can see all the devices that they have enrolled into Intune. They can check for compliance. They can do all the different things that are available. We're logging in here. We just set up MFA, so now when we log in the Intune company portal, you can see there we're prompted for that second factor authentication. And so once again, we can in the Intune company portal app, we can click enroll. We're going to tell the user there's all kinds of different things that we can do to the device. And then you just watch the screens here as we do something very similar. It's a KNOX device. We get a KNOX message there we need to say OK to. We're forcing a PIN to the device as part of that MDM policy. So we're going to put in a really complex PIN of 0000 here. But obviously with Intune, you can enforce password complexity. So you can make this alphanumeric and make it 8 characters or whatever, and really annoy your users. But in this case, as a demo, we're just using 0000. And away we go. So now we're into the company portal. And once again, it's a very similar experience. Looks a little different, but it's basically the same kind of experience. This is where you can check compliance. You can see information about your device, all that kind of fun stuff. Now, the next thing that we're going to jump over to, and you can see here all these applications that are available for install. Now the next thing we're going to do here is jump over to the Outlook app, which is a managed application. So Intune can enforce a policy on Microsoft productivity applications, so that's our container. Users get to use the Outlook application, Word, Excel. There is no container that they're jumping in and out of. The apps themselves actually have MDM built into them. So in this case, you could see that we launched the Outlook application. The user can log into the Outlook application. We're going to force for that second factor authentication, and now we're going to set that profile up for them. But one of the things you can see here, it's a managed app, and so another Intune policy is that we can enforce a PIN to those apps. Now, the next thing I wanted to show here, we're going to bounce back over to the Intune. This is the management application, and one of the things I want to show here is that in this particular case, we want to enforce the use of the Outlook application only. So we want to make sure that the users can't use the native email application on either an iOS device in this case or an Android device. So our default policy is to block, and then we want to add an exemption so that we can use the Outlook app. So just as an example, I'll show over here on the Android device how we can log in with the same credential, put in our password, and try to connect with just the native email application on a Samsung KNOX device, which is a profile that we can manage if you want to have that available. But in this case, we're going to turn it off because we've blocked access to that, allowing only the Outlook app. And so you can see we got the Outlook app set up, but in this case, the setup could not finish because we will not allow that connection to the server. So the next thing we want to do here is switch over kind of into a completely different thing and talk about rights management. So we've got a user here in a completely different company that wants to send an email to Bill and protect it. And so what we want to do here is make sure that this particular user can send Bill an email and apply a policy to that particular document that says only Bill can open it and with very specific permissions. And then as you can see here in the RMS sharing application, we're going to give Bill very specific permissions. He can only view that. We're going to expire the content in a few months. We're going to have the Azure service email us when somebody opens the documents, and we want the ability to revoke those, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So this other user in a completely different company is going to send Bill a rights management protected email. Only Bill can open that email. So we're going to jump back over to our iPad where Bill is logged in, has his profile and everything set up, and you can see right at the top there is that email that we just sent from this user outside of Bill's company. And as Bill opens that, He has a really nice experience. It opens right into Microsoft Word on the iPad, and you can see that Word is managed. It's got a management policy associated with that, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But now that Bill opens this rights management protected document, we can now look. We can do an inspection. We can look at the document and see that Bill has very restricted permissions, and he can't do anything with that. And just to prove that, we'll go over here and just kind of push on. Well, the first thing we're going to do here is actually show we got a URL in here, and so any of these URLs that in these managed applications are going to use our managed browser, and so we can blacklist a URL. So in this case, we blacklisted the Dropbox.com URL. But if we go back to Word into this rights management protected document, what you'll see here is we can highlight some text, but we do not have the ability to copy. So we can highlight all of it. If we click on it, it does not give us the ability to copy any of that text. So once again, this is a viewer only is what this other person gave Bill permissions to, and that's being enforced. Now, if I go to another document that somebody just sent me, we open it in Word and it's managed. So one of the things that we can do here is we're not going to have all these restrictive policies because this isn't a document that has RMS policies applied to it, but it is managed. So it was sent to us in our corporate email, and so we want to make sure that the content of this doesn't get out of the confines of any of these applications that we manage. So we can take a piece of text there and we can copy it. And then what I'm going to do here is jump over to Google Drive and go into one of my Google documents, and I'm going to try to paste that text into one of these documents here. And so I can open up a document, and you can see here as I hit a return down to the next line, if I try to paste, if I hold down and try to paste, the paste button is there, and I'll do it a couple times here. The paste button is there, but it doesn't actually paste any of the content over into the Google Drive document here. Now, the other thing that we can do here is we can send a new email, and the Outlook app is multi-persona. So we can switch over to our Outlook.com or myoutlook.com, and you can see that if I try to paste into my personal email, it will not let me do that. I do not get the option to paste. But if I switch back to my Office 365, my corporate managed, and hit paste, you can see there's that information or that text becomes available there as well too. Now, if I tried to switch back right now over to my Outlook.com, that wouldn't work. It wouldn't let me do that. It would give me a message telling me I couldn't do that. So the next thing we'll transition to is single sign-on. So my administrators have given me, using this credential that I'm logging into the Intune company portal in Office 365, they're giving me access, and so this is an application or an app that you can download from the App Store that gives you access into this Azure application portal. And once again, we're using MFA, so here's the MFA experience to log into that portal. And you can get to it on any web browser. We just happen to have an app for it. For the iPads, which is why I decided to use that here. But once I provide my credential and log in, I'm going to be presented with a number of tiles that I can click on that give me single sign-on into things like Office 365. And the first thing I'll bring up here is Salesforce.com. So we've done, on the back end in Azure, I've created a SAML federation over to Salesforce.com. So my users actually log into Salesforce with their corporate credential, right? Or maybe, hopefully you're a Microsoft customer, and so in this case we can click on the Dynamics CRM, and once again I get this very nice single sign-on experience into Salesforce using my Active Directory credential to log into that. So we've got a really nice experience there leveraging that single sign-on. When you log into that portal, you're going to get prompted, as you saw, for second factor authentication. Now I want to go show you a little bit about self-service passwords. So I'm over at the Office 365 portal. You can see down at the bottom there it says can't access your account. That's on all of our websites, all of our web properties. Somebody goes out there, realizes they forgot their password. They can click on that, come over here to this portal, put in their credential. In my case, I'm going to ask for their for the security questions, and then you can see this all happens real time here. I just cut it for 1 second so that I could paste my password in. But I've changed the password, and this actually changed it all the way back to my domain controllers on-prem. So once again, this is happening real time on the iPad. I'm switching right over back to the Office 365 portal, typing in my credential, cutting the screen for 1 second so that I can put my password in so that it doesn't show up, and I'm logging right into Office 365 right here. So you can see it takes me over to my ADFS login page. I'm authenticating against my domain controllers on-prem, and the password's already been changed. And so now I can log into the Office 365 portal. I can get, so I'll click on Outlook, my email here, and it'll log me into my email as that user. So pretty cool stuff there, being able to do a self-service password reset. Now, the last thing I wanted to show here is I'm back over to the user who sent Bill that rights management protected email. And what I can do is track that. So I got an email in my inbox that said, hey, Bill, open that email. So what do you want to do? And so now he can log into this portal. He can see who has opened that, what documents that he sent, and who's opened those. So you get a little bit of information about who's viewed it, anybody that's been denied, the amount of activity people have spent editing the document, those kinds of things. You can actually look at who's accessed it in different ways. So I can look at a map here. And I live in a place called, a little city called Leander, Texas, which is just northwest of Austin, Texas. So I can drill down and see there's me. I just opened that as I was building out all the videos for the demo here. And then finally, you can change, if you decide at some point you don't want to be notified anymore, you can come down and change those settings there. And then the last thing you can do is actually go revoke access to that document if you need to do that. So that's a quick overview, I think about 15 minutes or so overview of the Enterprise Mobility Suite. Thanks for the time. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the video down here, and I'd be happy to help you guys out. Thanks a lot.